Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you never miss an important update about Social Security, SSI, SSDI, and VA benefits. Recently, a leaked Social Security Administration, SSA Memo, has sparked nationwide attention. The memo outlines discussions around a $10,200 stimulus plan aimed specifically at Americans who receive SSI, SSDI, and VA benefits. If true, this plan could mark one of the most significant direct relief efforts for low-income seniors and disabled individuals since the early pandemic stimulus checks. While this information has not yet been officially confirmed through a White House or Treasury Department announcement, multiple sources within the SSA and congressional committees have indicated that the proposal is real, under review, and part of a broader push to address the rising cost of living facing millions of vulnerable Americans. Now, before we dive deeper, let's take a moment to understand why this proposal is even being considered and what factors are driving this new push for financial relief. Via the past few years, inflation has affected nearly every aspect of daily life, from groceries and housing to medication and utilities. For many seniors and people on fixed incomes, these costs have created serious hardships. The annual cost of living adjustments, COLAs, that Social Security provides have helped, but often not enough. That's why new discussions have emerged about direct relief payments, something that goes beyond the standard COLA increases. The leaked SSA memo reportedly mentions a targeted financial assistance plan, which would deliver a one-time $10,200 payment to individuals receiving SSI, Supplemental Security Income, SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance, or VA disability benefits. The goal, according to insiders, is to offset the compounded effects of inflation, medical costs, and the lag in government benefit adjustments. While the memo doesn't represent a final policy or guarantee of payments, it provides a rare glimpse into the discussions happening behind closed doors, discussions that could result in life-changing help for millions. Let's break this down step by step. What's in the memo, who could qualify, how the payments might be distributed, and what the potential timeline looks like if this proposal moves forward. To understand why this leaked memo has gained so much traction, it's important to look at how similar relief efforts have evolved in the past. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government issued 3 major stimulus checks to help Americans cope with financial hardships. Those payments were authorized under the CARES Act and subsequent relief packages, and they reached most Americans, including seniors and people with disabilities. However, after those rounds ended, many Social Security and VA recipients were left wondering if additional relief would ever come their way again. Since 2021, rising prices have created what economists call persistent inflation pressure. In plain terms, everything costs more, but most benefits haven't caught up. The Social Security COLA for 2025 was projected at around 3.2%, a modest increase compared to the higher rates seen in previous years. For many seniors, that increase doesn't cover the real jump in rent, food, and healthcare expenses. And that's where the SSA memo comes in. It's reportedly part of an internal effort to assess what kind of emergency payment could provide immediate relief to people living on the edge. The leaked document, according to those familiar with its contents, highlights several key findings. First, it acknowledges that beneficiaries of SSI, SSDI, and VA programs have faced the steepest decline in purchasing power in over 2 decades. Second, it suggests that a one-time payment, rather than a recurring increase, would be the fastest and most efficient way to get funds into the hands of those who need it most. Third, It discusses possible funding mechanisms, including unused pandemic-era allocations, reallocated budget surplus, loses or special congressional appropriations tied to emergency relief. While no official version of the memo has been published, financial analysts and policy researchers who have reviewed summaries of it believe it reflects serious internal consideration, not just speculation. In fact, several members of Congress have already hinted at their support for something similar. They argue that seniors and disabled Americans deserve targeted financial help, especially after years of being left behind by other economic policies. According to what's been circulating online and among policy insiders, the leaked SSA Memo outlines a plan referred to as the 2025 Relief Initiative for Fixed Income Beneficiaries. This initiative proposes a one-time $10,200 stimulus payment that would automatically go to individuals currently receiving federal disability or retirement-based income through SSI, SSDI, or VA programs. The payment would not replace any existing benefits. Instead, it would act as an additional relief measure designed to cover essentials like rent, groceries, and medical costs. The memo also notes that this payment would be non-taxable, meaning recipients would not have to report it as income when filing taxes. This is an important detail, especially for those who already struggle with complex tax rules or limited incomes. The goal, the memo explains, is to simplify the process and ensure that everyone eligible receives the funds without additional paperwork. The SSA would coordinate directly with the Treasury Department to issue payments using the same direct deposit system currently used for monthly benefits. One of the most striking details mentioned in the memo is the emphasis on speed and accessibility. The SSA reportedly wants the payments to reach beneficiaries within 60 days of congressional approval using existing payment infrastructure. That's faster than most past relief efforts, which often took months to roll out due to verification processes and bureaucratic delays. The memo suggests this time the agencies have learned from previous rounds and would rely on up-to-date recipient databases to avoid the common delays that occurred during earlier stimulus waves. Another important part of the document discusses eligibility. The plan would cover all current recipients of SSI, SSDI, and VA disability benefits, including those who receive partial or auxiliary benefits, as long as they are currently active in the system. It would also extend to certain survivors and dependents receiving benefits on behalf of deceased or disabled family members. The estimated total number of eligible individuals could exceed 70 million Americans, making this one of the largest targeted relief efforts ever proposed for seniors and disabled citizens. While the leaked SSA memo provides the technical details, the political side of this proposal is equally important. Support for another round of stimulus, especially one focused solely on fixed-income Americans, has been growing steadily across both major parties. Lawmakers are facing increasing pressure from constituents who say they can't keep up with rising costs despite years of hard work and savings. Some members of Congress have even compared the proposed $10,200 payment to the earlier pandemic stimulus checks, arguing that this time it's not about emergency pandemic relief, but long-term economic fairness. Others, however, worry about the potential budget impact and inflationary effects. Still, the leaked memo seems to suggest that this particular payment would be offset through reallocations of funds that are already authorized for relief programs, not new borrowing. If that's the case, it could make the plan more politically feasible. Meanwhile, public response to the leak has been overwhelmingly positive among Social Security, SSI, and VA communities. Advocacy groups for seniors and disabled Americans have already begun circulating petitions urging Congress and the White House to move forward with the plan. Online forums and local organizations have been flooded with questions about when and how the payments might be distributed. While officials caution that no final decision has been made, the fact that these discussions are happening is giving hope to millions. For seniors, veterans, and disabled Americans, the idea of a $10,200 payment isn't just about extra money. It's about relief, stability, and dignity. Many people on fixed incomes have faced heartbreaking choices between paying for medication, keeping the lights on, or putting food on the table. Even small increases in costs can have devastating effects when your monthly check never changes. This potential stimulus could help catch up on overdue bills, afford long-delayed dental or medical care, or simply offer a cushion to breathe a little easier. Experts also emphasize the psychological benefit of such a plan. Financial stress among retirees and disabled individuals often leads to anxiety, depression, and worsening health. A one-time payment could alleviate some of that pressure, giving people a sense of control over their finances again. For veterans, many of whom already struggle with physical and emotional challenges, this kind of direct support can also serve as recognition of their service and sacrifices. If the $10,200 stimulus plan outlined in the leaked SSA memo were to move forward, how exactly would it work? Understanding this process is crucial, especially for seniors and disabled Americans who have been let down by slow government systems in the past. According to analysts who've reviewed sections of the memo, the implementation process would be structured in several coordinated phases. First, the SSA, Treasury Department, and Department of Veterans Affairs would jointly create a secure data pipeline to identify all eligible recipients. Since the vast majority of SSI, SSDI, and VA beneficiaries already receive payments through direct deposit or direct express cards, the government already possesses the infrastructure needed to distribute funds efficiently. That means recipients wouldn't have to apply or submit additional paperwork. The funds would arrive automatically, just like monthly benefits. The timeline mentioned in the memo is surprisingly ambitious. It outlines that once congressional approval is received, the payments could begin processing within 45 to 60 days. The first wave would likely reach recipients who already use direct deposit, followed by mailed paper checks for those without electronic payment setups. Veterans who receive benefits through the VA payment system would see similar processing timelines, coordinated through Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Services. For verification, the SSA would rely on its active beneficiary list as of a specific cutoff date, possibly 1 month before payments begin. Anyone receiving SSI, SSDI, or VA benefits as of that date would be included automatically. Importantly, the memo reportedly clarifies that deceased recipients' estates or inactive accounts would not receive payments, closing the loophole that caused delays in previous stimulus rounds. In addition, the document highlights that the payments would be coded separately from regular monthly benefits, ensuring they don't interfere with normal Social Security or VA processing cycles. The goal, as stated, is to make this a smooth, one-time disbursement without disrupting anyone's ongoing payments. Now let's talk about where the money would actually come from. The SSA Memo reportedly explores several potential funding sources. One scenario involves reallocating unused pandemic-era funds that were originally set aside for emergency relief but never fully spent. Another involves tapping into federal budget surpluses from certain agencies that have underspent their allocations for the fiscal year. A third option, and perhaps the most likely, would be a special congressional appropriation under an emergency relief provision. a move that would require both House and Senate approval. Economists note that because this payment is targeted to low-income and disabled Americans, it's less likely to contribute to inflation compared to broad-based stimulus programs. That's because these funds are typically spent on essentials, rent, food, utilities, and medicine, rather than luxury items or speculative investments. In other words, the money goes straight back into local economies, supporting small businesses and community services that directly benefit from increased spending by seniors and veterans. Moreover, advocates argue that this kind of stimulus could actually reduce long-term government spending in other areas. When people can afford their prescriptions or preventive care, it can lower future healthcare costs. When they can pay rent on time, it prevents evictions and homelessness, which are far more expensive problems for the government to manage later. So from a policy perspective, the plan could be seen as both compassionate and economically sensible. Still, there are critics who worry about the precedent this could set. Some lawmakers have voiced concerns that regular emergency payments could create long-term budget pressures. However, the leaked memo appears to frame this as a one-time event, not a recurring program focused on stabilizing those hit hardest by persistent inflation and stagnant benefit growth. If this plan becomes reality, what should SSI, SSDI, and VA beneficiaries actually expect? The first thing to understand is that no action would be required from recipients. There would be no application, no forms to fill out, and no verification calls to make. Any communication about the payment would come directly from the Social Security Administration, the VA, or the Treasury Department. Experts warn that whenever major relief programs are discussed, scammers often take advantage of the situation. That means you should be extra cautious if anyone calls, texts, or emails you claiming to represent Social Security or offering to help you claim your payment. These agencies never contact people out of the blue or ask for personal information. The best advice is simple. If it sounds suspicious, ignore it and report it to the proper authorities. In terms of distribution, those with direct deposit would be the first to receive funds, usually within days of official release. Those who receive benefits through Direct Express cards would see the payment automatically loaded onto their accounts. Paper checks would take longer, but the SSA and Treasury have improved their mailing systems significantly since 2020, meaning delays should be minimal compared to past stimulus rounds. The memo also suggests that the government may issue official public notices through both mail and verified online portals before payments go out. These notices would explain the payment amount, eligibility confirmation, and estimated delivery date. This kind of transparency, if adopted, could go a long way in rebuilding trust with older Americans who have grown skeptical of government promises. Finally, financial advisors are recommending that recipients use the funds wisely, focusing on essentials, paying down debt, or saving for emergencies. While $10,200 can provide major relief, it's not a permanent solution. Planning ahead can make the difference between short-term comfort and long-term stability. Beyond the immediate relief, this proposal could signal a much bigger shift in how the US government approaches support for seniors, veterans, and people with disabilities. Historically, these programs have struggled to keep up with inflation and modern living costs. The idea of a targeted relief payment suggests that policymakers are beginning to acknowledge that COLA adjustments alone are not enough. If this plan succeeds, it could set a precedent for future direct relief initiatives. Some experts believe we could see annual or biennial stability payments for low-income Americans, tied not just to inflation but to broader economic indicators like housing costs and healthcare affordability. That would represent a major evolution in how social benefits are delivered. But it's equally important to stay informed and cautious. Scammers and misinformation always follow big announcements, so rely only on official updates from, and remember, legitimate government agencies will never ask for your social security number, bank details, or money in exchange for a benefit payment. In the meantime, continue to budget wisely, stay connected with trusted financial advisors or community resources, and keep yourself informed about every new development. Whether this stimulus is approved or not, one thing is clear: Americans on fixed incomes deserve respect, relief, and recognition for the challenges they face. Before we wrap up, if you found this video helpful, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. We post frequent updates about Social Security, disability programs, veterans benefits, and financial assistance, always explained in clear and simple terms. Your support helps us reach more people who need this information, and it ensures that everyone can stay one step ahead when it comes to their benefits and financial planning. Thank you for watching, thank you for caring, and most of all, thank you for standing strong through these uncertain times. Remember, knowledge is power, and when you stay informed, you stay protected. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved ones, and we'll see you again very soon in the next update.